Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. Looking at river science and making sure that we go into the future generations, we're going to be talking about high school education in action and why it's so important to have the students to be involved while they're still in school, before they graduate, even before they go off to the university, even if they're going to be in environmental science or even other hard sciences. Why is it so important to have them involved? Dr. Luke Javernick is the executive director. Also, he's an award-winning river scientist of river science. And we're going to be talking about getting students involved and allowing them to contribute to the science both of today and the future. Welcome, Luke.
Thanks, Sam. It's good to be here.
We're glad to have you. River science and high schools. How do these two mix together in your world very nicely?
Yeah, and in my world, in river science, we're trying to make data affordable. And kids in high school need education. And education in the past has really just been about giving kids knowledge, but we want to prepare kids for a better future and to give them skill sets and experiences. So one of our big things with the nonprofit is that we're really trying to get kids and education into action and going out into their local community and helping solve some of our greatest water resource problems.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you have them, and this is really a great photograph showing how, and you see the intensity that these young students, many of these that probably would rather be somewhere else, but yet because of their actually touching and becoming engaged in this, they realize this is something that's very important and important for their future. So how are you bridging this? Is this experience they're having right here that intellectual but also that physical bridge between theory and knowledge, between theory and the real life of these students?
Yeah, so this is a stream table, and it's just a little toy river, but it does a lot of the typical physical processes of rivers, and getting kids to see that is how we first give them the concepts of what's happening, and then we get them out into the field and we show them other systems and how they work, and this does help bridge that gap between taking such a complex subject like how rivers move over time and how the social and economic pests like agriculture and others, how these come head to head in our natural systems. But absolutely, this is the bridge that we make to help kids grab the concepts and then go out and apply them and understand them at a much deeper level.
Right, very important. Now, getting out, going from, in essence, a setup classroom, if you will, out to the real out of doors. And so once they get out there, what are they learning beyond what you've just shared with them, either in the classroom or with the diorama?
Yeah, so we get them out and we get them collecting real data. This picture shows kids out in the Arkansas River where they've done bug counts. Essentially, you take this net and you screen the bottom, and then you go through and you pick out which bugs there are. And the bugs are really important because the absence and presence of certain bugs tells you a lot about the overall health of the river, because bugs are out there all the time. So it's not just how the water quality is right now, but it's how has it been over months and maybe even a year. So getting kids out and seeing this and participating in this is a huge transition. This data was collected as part of a way to help our community, because upstream there was a wildfire, and then all of those wildfire impacts really degrade our rivers. And getting the kids out and collecting these bugs upstream of where the fire impacts were and then downstream was really valuable for us river scientists to understand, but it really showed the bigger picture of river health to the students as well, of what impacts fire has and how sensitive these ecosystems are.
Now, looking at the testing kits, I know this is something that's very important. And also, even though it's simplistic, yet it's quite sophisticated. So, why do they need to learn about the testing and the various methods and the processes that are used for testing?
Yeah, because it comes down to standards, we want to make sure that they understand and that they follow these rigorous steps, because data has to be handled carefully and collected carefully. And this is water quality kits that they use with chemistry sets to actually quantify the water quality that's current in the river. So they take this data and the bug data and they build out this picture of the overall river health. But it really, to your question, it really comes down that having these kids do the chemistry, having them learn the value of data, and making sure that they're doing it in a way that everybody respects the data is really important, because that goes on to empower kids, knowing that what they're doing is important and it's not contrived. It's something that's real and important, and that changes kids' perspectives.
And I think you're doing this at the right age. And I know that some of the school systems, even in the Washington, D.C. area where I am, they're down in the elementary and in the middle schools because there seems to be such a move or a dichotomy in society about, what is science and why science is so important. And I'm so glad that you're doing this with the students to teach them that if you don't have the science, you really have no idea what's going on out there. So, looking at wildfires and river health, this is something that you've mentioned several times. What are we looking at here, and why is this map, this chart, so important for local citizens to understand about, their own home areas?
Yeah, so all of this has been coming through the first ever river science class that we offer at the high school. So all of these kids going out and collecting this data has been part of their environmental science class or environmental club, and now it's actually into its own full river science class. But the kids also have these graduation requirements to do a capstone project where they research and they produce something. And we had our student go through and produce this story map, which uses a lot of GIS plus all the information they gathered. So we could have this story map to share with the public so that the public can start to understand the impacts of the wildfire, the impacts to the river health. And it's just it's a nice way to tie in what the kids are doing and bringing it back to the public, making sure that they're aware of it as well and what's happening with their school and their environment.
Yeah, and the whole idea of allowing the students actually to be teaching the elders and their families, I think that's a very important link. So if you have several hundred students, you're really reaching thousands of people in a very significant way. Going back to the drones that we talked about earlier, why at this age do they understand and need to understand more about why drones are so important and how to use them? Because I would assume drones will be literally integrated into their future, correct?
Yeah, it's a technology that's quickly being implemented in river restoration and river projects and land, and it definitely isn't going anywhere. So this is a picture taken from the Van Norman project, which is a local river restoration. So we're kind of shifting out of the wildfire now and into restoration activities. And these kids are out collecting data. Then the first thing we had was doing a land survey and fly the drone so we could get some maps. And yeah, it's fun to watch kids around drones. It kind of merges kids that maybe normally wouldn't be interested in the environment or river health, but they may be on the technical side or the coding side or even the gaming side. And now we're creating a different kind of interest that bridges them over to say, hey, some of my interests could be applied for this, and there's jobs out there in the future for me. And it's wonderful to see those kids come out of their shells and get excited about other things, and then they kind of fold into the environmental side of it.
And the thing I found interesting, we didn't really talk about at the time, but you talked about the 4-day courses that you have, and they actually come out of there, if they pass the exams, certifications. And that's something in today's world, more than degrees or getting a high school diploma, it's having specific certifications is critical to the future of their work and their contribution back to society. So I think you need to be given kudos for that, Luke, and allowing people to study for and have those certifications. But this is up close and very dirty. What are we doing?
Yeah, so this is the Van Norman restoration site, and before we can really go down and use this or collect water down there all the time, we first said we need to build a trail because we want to have a small footprint. So one of the first things is kind of teaching the broader stewardship of the land and saying, 20 students shouldn't just walk down this hillside 5 times over the next couple of months. That's going to start to deteriorate the hill slope. So we actually made them build a trail down there, which kind of initiates that first step. And getting these kids out and getting them to get their hands dirty is great. And they're hard workers. And they're good students.
Yeah, that's very important. Tell us what's going on here. You have some really good photos. I'm just going to kind of move through here. We're running out of time. But this is really great to end this particular show. What's happening? And I'm just going to go through some photos and you just keep chatting, okay? And we have about 1 minute left.
This one's just kids out doing land survey with RTK GPS, so really sophisticated land survey equipment, and they're learning how to map. And that's what this picture is. Kids here using a drone that we were flying earlier, actually letting them see how it operates and how it lands and takes off. And again, they just really get engaged with this one.
Yeah, it's really good to have the opportunity to touch these things.
This one is an app, a mapping app the kids built, and then they went out on the Van Norman project and were documenting any kind of habitat. So this one here shows that students found some kind of habitat, which is a den or a cave that animals are using for shelter. And then all those other orange dots are other habitat locations as well that they're identifying. Right. So it could be nests or scat.
And we're back to this manual. We're going to go out on this. I think this is very well done. Tell us why this manual is so important for people to know about, but also to follow it as far as the simplicity, the applicability, and the way to do it, very much up close, personal, and hands-on.
Yeah, so about 30 seconds. Low-tech restoration is a way that we encourage rivers to become messy again and kind of kickstart some of the processes that they need to be healthy. And we have students actively doing these restoration projects using these techniques, and they're low-tech. They can be done by hand. They don't cost a lot, and we can actually see real impact. So again, I think kids be involved in seeing their work come to fruition, and that's the techniques that we're using in this class.
That's fantastic. This is Dr. Luke Javernick, Executive Director, award-winning river scientist, River Science. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thanks, Sam, for having me.